Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Bruce Klingner. He's the former CIA Deputy Division Chief for Korea and is now with the Heritage Foundation. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So, do you think they can do it if this meeting goes ahead?
Well, there's, I think, perhaps unrealistic expectations. I mean, we've had 8 international agreements with North Korea, all that have failed. We have 10 or 11 UN resolutions that require North Korea to not only stop nuclear and missile testing, but to abandon their nuclear and missile program. So that's not to say we can't try diplomacy once again, but I think we have to be sort of realistic and wary about, engaging with the North.
Well, the White House is already saying that there will have to be conditions. What might those conditions look like?
It's a little puzzling. You can't have a denuclearization achieved in the 2 months before the planned schedule, and if there's no missile or nuclear test, well, then that would be a condition. But you can't really make a lot of progress. But I think what they'd have to have is pretty extensive meetings between U.S. and North Korean officials, defining what is the agenda of items that will be discussed between the two leaders.
How would you verify any concrete steps that Sarah Sanders, the press secretary, was talking about on the ground, given your experience of how difficult it is to find out what's going on?
It depends on the activity. A nuclear test we can detect remotely just through seismology. Missile tests we can identify remotely. But if you're going to have a denuclearization accord, whether it's the agreed framework or something much more extensive, you're going to have on-site inspection. So you're going to have things such as challenge inspections of non-declared facilities where you have the right basically to knock on the door and say, let me in, I think you're cheating. And if they don't let you in, you have a problem. If they let you in, then you're like, okay, I'm a little more confident that you're not cheating.
Why do you think North Korea has come to the table at this point? The White House again is saying it's because they're in a position of weakness. Do you think that's right?
It's really a debatable issue. Some would say it's the threat of a preventive attack by the U.S., the fire and fury comments. I think it's the pressure, the international sanctions, the targeted financial measures, which, although we've had sanctions for quite some time, really it's only in the last 2 years that we've really ramped them up. We've gotten much more extensive UN resolutions. We're more directly impacting the finances of the regime. So I think it's like with the Iran nuclear deal. It was the combination of greater pressure and a willingness to have an open door to diplomacy that those two working together have brought North Korea back to at least the initial steps of a negotiation. And
of course, as we keep saying, we have been here before. Is there a possibility that they're just once again trying to buy time?
Very much so. They're engaged in a charm offensive now. Kim Jong-un's predecessors engaged in alternating provocations and charm offensives. They always tended to be more offensive than charming. Kim Jong-un's this is his first one, but he's really doing it on steroids. It's a very energetic outreach to the South and now to the U.S. But even in the readout from the South Korean delegation, you can see there's some pretty heavy strings attached to what they say North Korea agreed to. So in a way, it's a very good step. It's a reversal of North Korean statements, but it's really just a promise to come back to square one.
And what would this do for Kim Jong-un personally? Would this give him the legitimacy that he's been craving for some time?
It would, both internationally and domestically, but perhaps even more importantly, it would seem to put any kind of military threat on the back burner as long as these negotiations are going on. Back in December, it seemed like we were getting close to some kind of military action. That talk has been downplayed now. It's really being forgotten. But if these talks don't go well, either the summit meeting or any subsequent negotiations, if they collapse, then we're back to the tension, the fear of the American homeland being attacked by nuclear weapons.
Bruce Klingner, thank you very much for joining me. Well, just before the Korea announcement yesterday, President Trump imposed stiff tariffs on imported steel and aluminium in the teeth of opposition from many in his own government and global allies. Well, the European Union has already threatened retaliation. Harley-Davidson motorcycles could be targeted, no small threat to a company that relies on Europe